thought it was time to do a video on how much money I've made on these Tesla cables I've been selling and how things have worked out so far. And I will regret dumping these all out like that, but oh well. um, so I'll just hold this in front of the screen if you don't want to watch the whole video. There you go. There's your answer. But I thought I'd talk about those numbers a little bit. See if I can get zoomed so it's still readable at least. So overall, these cables have cost me just around $10 each to make for parts and labor. Obviously, with a lot of things, you can't source them 100% in the US, but the labor I was able to source in the US. I don't think really any of the components on these are US made otherwise. Could be wrong. But yeah, so $10 each per cable, and depending if you buy one or two cables, it's basically 70 cents to $1 of packing materials. That's the box, bubble wrap, tape, and yeah, I guess that's really about it. Void fill, if you buy two. I kind of have averaged out the shipping cost to $4.80 per order. So it kind of ranges depending where it's going, but since this is a single cable, just one of these cables weighs less than 4 ounces shipped versus two of them, the box ends up being just shy of 8 ounces. Shipping's fairly cheap. The range usually ends up being around like $4.30 to like $5.40. $4.30 to $5.40. So I just go with a happy average of $4.80. And then fees, those kind of vary. It depends on how much sales tax the buyer pays and if they pay sales tax. Basically, those fees end up being 10% plus the 30-cent transaction charge. So about $3.20 to $5.20 per order. I should have probably done those numbers a little different. This is like, so this top portion here is the overall, and then I break it down here into what the selling costs are per cable. It costs me more to sell the cables individually just because of the shipping costs mostly, and I'm being nice and passing on a lot of my savings to the customer that I have from the shipping costs, because I could make more per cable if I wasn't doing the discount. I forget what it is, 10% off if you buy two or more. But overall, the discount I give, I mean, it still ends up being around the same amount of profit. And I kind of get a mix of people that are buying them in one or two. A few people I think have bought more than two, which surprised me. But for the most part, people have been buying a mixture of one and two at a time. So I kind of figured an average of $9.50 per cable, which is pretty close to where I wanted to be. My goal was to make it around $10 per cable profit, since this is more of a passion project, but I do want to make it worth my time. And so far, I've sold 134 cables. One of those is technically returned because the buyer changed their mind. And one of those was canceled because someone found a cheaper one, I guess. So I just, whatever. But we'll just pretend that number's accurate. And the gross profit before manufacturing costs, that would be the amount of money I made per cable, including or not including the cost to make the cable. And I base that basically off of the average profit per cable. So basically that $2,613 is 134 times 1950, because outside of these selling costs, I basically get $10 plus the $9.50 is what that is. I don't think I explained that very well. Basically, if I got these cables for free, my gross profit would be or not my gross profit. The money I would get for the cable would be $19.50. Not good at explaining things sometimes. But then the rough net profit after manufacturing costs and the selling fees and all that, so far on the cables that I've sold, I've made $1,273. Technically, I'm not at the break-even point yet because I have spent $3,000 on these cables that I have in inventory. So I need to sell another $400 worth of cables, which would be like 23 more cables, I think, to hit the break-even point. So not terrible, not great. But yeah, and then based on these numbers, once I sell all 289 cables that I have, my rough net profit I'll make off of this project will basically be $2,745.50, assuming the average of $9.50 per cable. And it also assumes that, people don't have problems and return the cables, and shipping costs don't go up, and a whole bunch of things I don't want to think about. But yeah, I don't know. I thought people might find it interesting. It's not really a profitable thing. Like, there's better things I could be doing with my time that would be more profitable than this. But it's more of a passion project thing. I've always wanted to have my own product, basically, something I've designed, and I'm tired of people's garbage products. So, the thing that I like about these is they can only be plugged in one way. They're labeled. They're nicely designed. I could probably cut corners and go from 18 gauge to 20 gauge wire, to be honest, and it might cut my cost down a little bit. I don't think it's worth it though. Like, on the high end, using lower gauge wire might save me $1 in these volumes. Unlikely though. More realistically, going from 18 gauge wire, they should be 18 at least. Let me double check that. Yeah, they're 18. I don't know if that'll focus. Whoop. Yeah, kind of. There you go. Yeah, more than likely, it's probably like 25 to 50 cents saving per cable. And yeah, over 300, that's $150. But honestly, it's not worth it. I'd rather make a better product because I feel like having the higher gauge wire within reason is definitely worth it for the longevity and quality of the product. But yeah, I don't know. It definitely does put things in perspective, because I've seen some of the other products other YouTubers have made that are like electronic related, and it's like, wow, those seem expensive. But then once you actually look at the numbers and stuff, it's like, yeah, it's it's really expensive, and it's not a high profit item. Definitely a reason why it costs more. And if you want to buy the ones made in China, I don't really care. I mean, it makes no difference to me. Like I said, I don't make a ton of money on these, so it's not going to hurt me any. But yeah, so I think I'll leave it at that before it gets too rambly. And hopefully you found that interesting, and thanks for watching.